and Tiz the Law has the lead at the top of the stretch. It is Tiz the Law in front with 3/16 to the finish. Tiz the Law has a 4-length lead. He's left the others behind.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Race Course, this is Racing Across America. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga. Just minutes from the track. The new Capital OTB wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with the new Capital OTB wagering platform. CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier wagering site in New York State. And the Clubhouse Racebook. Can't make it to the track? Make it to the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Good morning. Welcome to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. Thursday morning means Seth, Merrow, Anthony, Mormino. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning again. Still beautiful.
Still beautiful. It is, actually.
Which is somewhat funny, but sometimes the weather changes so rapidly. But that really hasn't, other than opening day when that storm came in just before the opener, and we've had a couple others, but boy, we do the show, well, we kick off Handicappers Report 4 hours before the first post. We haven't had very many changes.
I sat back here a couple of weeks ago one day. A lot of times I'll sit back after the shows. It's nice and quiet back here and I'll work. And I'm sitting back here, and it was essentially like this, sunny out, and all of a sudden I hear something on the, I realize it's pouring rain. It's sunny, it's pouring.
Yeah.
You talk about a quick change and a bizarre change. But that was like, it lasted literally like 2 minutes.
And what are we holding on about? I could do a little zigzag, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking about 5 off the turf races.
Good question. So far, we've had. I have the stats right in front of me. A total. Oh, I've got the stats for off the turf too. 97 turf races so far, 5 off the turf. Well, that compares to last year, 86 turf races total, 21 off the turf. Yeah. So we're at the halfway point. So they put out the halfway stats yesterday. Let me just alert you to today's show. Coming up a little bit later on, Mike Welsch will join us. Our weekly visit from the Daily Racing Forum. We have Mike and Dave Grenig alternate Mike Welsch in today. We'll talk a little bit about a little review and preview of some of the stakes action coming up, and just finished over the last weekend as well. But a little bit after that, happy to be joined by Tom Amoss, who got, this is incredible, career win number 4,000 yesterday. Did it in the stakes race with Isolate. So immediately after that, I asked Tom. I've been kind of trying to get Tom over the past couple of seasons, and he said, anytime. And I thought,
we suspect he'll be good on television.
Yeah, exactly? I thought, what better time to reach out than after milestone victory number 4,000? Pretty incredible. So that's coming up a little bit later on. Just a couple of seconds too. We'll have something I taped in the winner's circle of Charlie Appleby. Over the weekend, he won the 2 stakes, the 2 grass stakes with Nation's Pride and with the Moonlight. So we'll hit on that a little bit too. And in fact, maybe we should just go to that and then come back, because I also wanted to hit on some of the, halfway point stats and leaderboards and whatnot, and handle numbers are crazy. But why don't we go to the Charlie Appleby piece again? I taped this in the winner's circle on Sunday after With the Moonlight won the Oaks. But Appleby was over here. William Buick on board, both for Godolphin. On Saturday wins the Saratoga Derby with Nation's Pride. On Sunday wins the Oaks with the Moonlight. Nation's Pride coming off the nice second place finish down at Belmont behind Classic Causeway, who was in on Saturday as well. But Charlie Appleby, I thought it was worth, I taped a little bit, as I say, his reaction in the winner's circle on Sunday, and I thought he's a guy who's really been prominent on the international grass scene over the last year and a half in the news and with some big winners, and I thought maybe a lot of our viewers aren't familiar with him, so it was a good chance to get to see him and hear a little bit. He talks about Nation's Pride, and coming out of the Belmont race into the win on Saturday. He talks a lot about With the Moonlight because this was right after that victory. What might be next for those? Yibir will come over for Charlie for the Sword Dancer. He mentioned that. He was also asked about Modern Games, the horse that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and a couple of weeks ago was second in the Sussex at Goodwood. So covered that, and also got just asked about the Saratoga experience. It was his first time here, and he mentions that, so he reflects on that a little bit. So again, this is from Sunday in the winner's circle of Charlie Appleby after the victory in the Oaks by With the Moonlight. Up next.
Up to take the lead from Classic Causeway. Annapolis is third. They're coming on for the finish, and it will be the Irish bred Nation's Pride to win the $1 million Grade 1 Caesars Saratoga Derby. Out in the middle of the course there is With the Moonlight. With the Moonlight, Contemporary Art, then McCulloch, and New Year's Eve. With the Moonlight in front here in deep stretch, and it will be With the Moonlight and William Buick to take the Grade 3 Saratoga Oaks.
I think, to be brutally honest with you, I mean,
22 minutes.
they went hard at Belmont, and to be fair to Frankie, it's the first time he sat on, and I said, look, rider that should get the trip, on evidence of today, or evidence of that day, and coming back in a half a furlong today suited her, and like William said, she's got plenty of boots. You could almost bring her back to a mile. The more racing she's got, the more experience she's got, she's learning how to do it. And but look, it was a good performance there, and we were comfortable coming in today. That we felt of course we respected Chad's filly, but we were confident that we'd be running her a bit closer this time. And we had a great ride round there, and once he gave her the signal, I was pretty confident that she'd see that out anyway.
Were you surprised that maybe you weren't on the lead?
Not really, when there was three of Chad's horses in there, and admittedly, to be fair to Dubai filly, she won when she broke her maiden, I think, or led when she broke her maiden, sorry, should I say. We were purposely going to try and jump to lead and see if someone wanted to take it off us, but she was a half a stride slow there, and the race just developed the way it did, but we were happy with it.
You left him here after Belmont. How do you think that might have played a role in sweeping the weekend?
But there's no doubt about it. You can't. For me, the transition, as I mentioned there yesterday, with Nation's Pride as well. There's physicals. I've seen them do very well with their time here in America, and the question mark would be what we do with this filly, but with Nation's Pride, where we look towards the Jockey Club Invitational, whether we leave them here or whether we ship them back. Those discussions, we have to make them pretty quick because they're due to fly back on Tuesday, but I'll make a call in the next 24 hours of whether they stay or whether we ship them back home.
Would you be comfortable with this filly at a mile and a half?
No, unfortunately not, but I've got another filly, hopefully we might find one for it.
When you saw the fractions, I imagine you had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah. No, like I say, they looked comfortable, and she was in a nice rhythm, but she was travelling well within herself, and after I knew that they'd just gone nice even fractions, coming off the turn there, that she, William had her in the A1 position.
Summarize your weekend, sweeping both of them?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. No, look, I have to say to Nara and everybody at Saratoga being very, very kind to us and very hospitable, and looked after myself and the team very well. And obviously it's great to have the winners, but it's my first time in. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's an amazing place, and to see what there's been a lot of history and a lot of fun had here.
You said it's the first time you're here in Saratoga.
That's right, yeah. So,
you mentioned Chad, the way he has success on turf. Taking on three of his, regardless of what you have, has to be a formidable task.
Oh yeah, we know what Chad's like on the turf. I mean, he's a fantastic trainer, but his turf horses they take a bit of getting past. But look, we always feel that we bring the right horses to be competitive, and I always say to the guys, it's not. Of course, everyone wants to come and win, but as long as you're being competitive, and thankfully we've been doing that over the last few weeks, so it's good.
Will you come back here with Yibir for the sword dancer?
Yes, that's the plan. Yeah, he ships out on the 17th or 18th, I think. He's in great order. It's been a long-term plan. We had a couple of bumps in the road there early on there at Belmont there. Unfortunately, rain came in and there was no pace in the race, but what we've seen at home, we're very pleased with the way he's done so far, and if he ships in well, he'll be a big player.
Will you be shipping with him?
Hopefully, yeah.
How do you?
We'll have to see, yeah.
Is it likely this filly would go home Tuesday, and then you just have to decide whether?
Yeah, I'll be brutally honest, because of what William and I have spoken about, whether she could come back in trip. I don't know whether that opens up her options or not. I mean, the question mark was whether the Oaks Invitational would be something to look at with her, but that's clearly not not an option for her. Like William says, that was far enough for her today.
I guess it's the Queen Elizabeth, the Keeneland, at the bottom.
Well, yeah, possibly, yeah. You probably know the races better than I do. So anyone wants to give me a race plan, I'll try and work around it.
So say the Breeders' Cup filly mare Turf is a mile 316.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably something that we'd strongly take into consideration. But it's nice to have a good weekend, and as it's been, everyone's enjoyed themselves.
One last question, Modern Games update.
Modern Games has been great, Nick. Come out of the Sussex well. He could possibly go to Keeneland, or we might go to Canada. And 2 more runs with him. It'd be, like I say, either Keeneland or Canada, and then on to the Breeders' Cup.
Which is a mile.
For the mile.
Just curious, you've alluded to it already, but you play on the international stage. Just reflect on being here at Saratoga, your first time, and the fans in the venue.
It's been fantastic. I say everyone's been very welcoming, and they've looked after us fantastically well. And more importantly, they've looked after my team and the horses in great shape. And yes, I can see why there's been a lot of fun here, and I've heard lots of stories, and people had a lot of fun, as I mentioned, and it's nice to come here and see it myself. And it's a very special place.
So a few seconds there from Charlie Appleby again after the victory by With the Moonlight on Sunday in the Oaks, and again on Saturday one with Nation's Pride. Nice weekend for Charlie.
Yes.
And William Buick. And I said I tried to get a little William Buick, but he kind of popped out of the winner's circle too quickly. But we'll try him in the future.
You think of turf racing around the world, it's Japan, Charles Appleby, Chad Brown, and the rest of you fight it out for whatever falls through. You know what I heard in that interview? Besides how engaging and the sense of humor he had, what I heard out of all that was he has no intention of facing Baid again with Modern Games. That's what I heard. When I heard that question, I would have been the Queen Elizabeth at Newmarket. That doesn't sound. No, I am not running in Europe at a mile again. I am going either to Keeneland, I presume, is the Shadwell Turf Mile he's talking about, and Woodbine is the Woodbine Mile. But what I heard, and you see this on Twitter often, Seth, and you tell me you're on Twitter and you like post on Twitter, but it's a lot of people will say, like, tell me you're a horse racing fan without telling me you're a horse racing fan. That's telling me what you think about Modern Games and Baid again without telling me what you think.
But who can blame him?
No, you're supposed to do that. I mean, he might be, he's probably going to be the champion mile. He might be the Cartier Horse of the Year. And like I said earlier in the meet, Seth, in the Sussex, he ran appreciably better. Modern Games ran appreciably better in the second start of the year than he did on debut. But it wasn't good enough. Get away from that beast.
Yeah.
And that's what he was saying, without saying it.
Without saying it, yeah. So again, hopefully you got a little introduction to Charlie Appleby.
And I think what he basically said was he thanked one of the reporters for giving him the game plan when he talked, because I think what he was saying was a mile and 3/16 might be her limit. And he said, well, you got the mile and QE2. He was like, yeah, it's a good idea. Great job.
Yeah, nice.
Good job, Seth.
Well, I tried.
No cameraman for you. You got your own force.
We're at the halfway point after yesterday, and so
what do you have?
got the rundown from yesterday, which has the totals, and on the human side of things, no shock. Irod Ortiz currently, I guess the shock is maybe it's a 7-win lead. He's 31. Luis Saez is 24. Joel Rosario 22. Flavian Prat 16. Javier Castellano, again, very good meet with 15.
But the thing about Castellano for me was not only ROI. I don't know if they have it there. When I did the stats for last week's RAA, he has limited mounts.
Oh yeah,
I was shocked. I was shocked at how infrequently he's riding.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast the past couple of days that had kind of parsed out and had come up with their own impact kind of numbers. And
somebody stealing my work? No.
It was Javier Castellano was
very
right
impactful.
Up there. Well, because of the limited number of mounts, the ROI and whatnot. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, he was at a 25% win.
Yeah, he's sitting fifth with 15. But again, you look at the win percentage, it's very solid. 7-win lead also on the trainer side of things. Chad Brown with 23, Todd Pletcher with 16, Mike Maker with 10, Christophe Clement 9, Bill Mott 8, Steve Asmussen right there with 7, Wesley Ward, Brad Cox, Tom Morley, Jorge Abreu, and Linda Rice all with 5, but Chad Brown a 7-win lead at the halfway point.
It's just dynamic.
Always like to also, I find it interesting as the meet proceeds, and early in the meet, we're as far as winning favorites, we were sitting for a long time at a 30%, and you always say you figure over the course of any meet, you're going to be, favorites are typically going to average out from 30 to maybe 36%. But we are now at the high end of that, 35.3% winning favorites so far through 204 races. That means 72 favorites have won so far in the first 204 races. And I thought that was kind of interesting because a long time we were at the lower end of the expectations, about 30%, but that has changed over the past maybe week and a half or so, week and a half. There have clearly been some days when you mentioned there was the one day where we didn't
no
hit a
4-to-1 shot.
Yeah.
No 4-to-1 shot about 10 days. The thing that makes it intriguing with the uncoupled entries with the Chad Brown runners in particular, he seems to have won with a couple of the 5-to-1 shots. Just thinking anecdotally, and Todd Pletcher running some multiple horses that people don't know where to yin and yang. And I'll tell you one thing: if it was coupled entries, it'd be about 42%. I think the win rate and the do they put what the average mutual is for the favorite?
They don't.
Okay, because that would interest me. I could do that myself, but. We got more fun stats there?
Yeah.
Money wise, do the roof.
On track handle, 72 million as compared to last year's 67, so 7.5% bounce up. The all sources handle, 430 million compared to 401. So again, 7.3 bounce. That 7% increase is a pretty good number year to year.
It is, and I don't want to be a wet blanket, but what I have always loved, Seth, is, adjusting for inflation. Like I've always said to people, when we were growing up, I think somebody once said to me, you had to make a $2 wager before I could legally wager. And I think somebody said that's like equal to like a $7.80 wager now. I think fractional wagering has helped a lot. And I because obviously I'm hoping that there's real growth. Not just inflationary growth, etc. But imagine if we didn't have fractional wagering now.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great idea. And I know you're waiting for even more fractional wagering for the pick 3.
I do want the pick 3.
I know
New
you
York
do.
Come down to 50.
I give you credit for not, putting the screws to David O'Rourke the other day.
The last time he was in, I mentioned it to him, but I didn't mention it.
You played nice by going
didn't think
little something for the little guy.
Didn't think of it the other day. Total races the same this year and last year, 204 at this point. Field size, though, is up incrementally, and that's good news, certainly. And as I mentioned, 97 turf races this year as compared to only 86 last year. 5 off the turf this year as compared to 21 at this point.
And I'll bet you're right about in that probably leans towards the overall field size. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. Having, losing 21 turf races is tough on the numbers.
No question. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Mike Welsch from the Daily Racing Forum will join us, a little preview and review. Don't forget, coming up a little bit later on, 4,000 career wins scored yesterday to get to the milestone in the stakes race. Tom Amoss a little bit later on. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations and looking forward to a 5th, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued their 99-year tradition of delighting their faithful following with the finest authentic Italian recipes made with the freshest ingredients. Some things have changed in the last 99 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Hello everyone, I'm Scott Vartley and I'm here at the West Condominiums in Saratoga Springs. And guess what? We are down to the home stretch. Everything is 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. Come make a selection of one of the greatest condos ever to be built in Saratoga Springs. We're starting in the upper 5s and the only rooftop penthouse available now under construction. Wow, just look at this patio. We have a rooftop pool, heated garage, balconies, and a gym. Call me at 518-281-6808.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday. Thursday means a visit from our friends at the Daily Racing Forum, Dave Grenig and Mike Welch. It's Mike Welch's time in the hot seat. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I know you're always overdoing workouts, and just want an update on a beautiful morning. How many workers are out there this morning?
50 today. Thursday's kind of usually a easy day. Most midweek days are. All the activity seems to come on Saturdays and Sundays. And you know, between the 3 tracks, including the turf, on Sundays and Saturdays, we get somewhere between 250 and 350 each day when you add them up for the 3 tracks. So, yeah, days like this are a little easier to clock when there's some time in between works for the most part. When those days on Saturday and Sunday, especially after the breaks, it seems like there's 6 or 8 of them working all at the same time at one part of the track or the other. So we've got 3 of us up there during those periods, and you kind of call out, I got this, I got that, and try to get as many of it as you can. But sometimes you could have 6 or 7, and one will slip through the cracks. That's really how many at times will be working at the same time. Everybody wants to get on a fresh track after the break on the main track at 8:45, and it becomes pretty hectic out there.
And whenever you're on, or you or Dave like to tout the workout report, and I'll do it again this morning. Workout report, a great tool to add to your toolbox, particularly up here at Saratoga, the baby races. You can get some good insight with the workouts, and you and Dave and the team do a great job kind of grading the workouts. And we always say, it's not just looking at the time and looking for the bullet. These guys will tell you how the workout looked, if they were working in company. That's all important too. So go to.
It's not always looking at the grade either. We try to emphasize that. Read the comments, because sometimes you're in between, a B or a B minus or a B and a B plus or whatever. And if you read the comment, you kind of get that feeling better than just looking at the grade. I mean, I know some people who just buy the report and anything without a B plus they don't bet, or without a B, and you sometimes you just got to read between the lines a little bit. But we try in the comments to kind of couch in the right direction, how we're feeling about the work one way or the other.
Yeah, and again, a great tool in the toolbox, drf.com for the workout reports. And just before we get into some of the racing, on the workout side of things again, I'm kind of sitting right near you and Dave, and I hear you guys talking about the workouts. And one of the things I find fascinating, not everybody aims their horse to end the workout at the finish line, right? Some of the workouts will start or end at a little bit of a different spot. That's got to present a little bit of a puzzle for you guys.
Yeah, sometimes we know they're going to go on, sometimes you don't, and then sometimes you just got to know the players. Like a trainer like Linda Rice, she'll always have her horses go on and work an 1/8 of a mile past the wire. Ricky Violet used to do that all the time so successfully too when he had young horses. Yeah. You want to teach them to go through the wire and keep going. So that's a good thing. And again, sometimes you just really don't know. When you get really busy, you don't know whether to take them on or click off that watch and start another one over there. But yeah, I like when, especially gallop outs. I really like when horses gallop out and gallop out a long ways. You always want to keep an eye on the Todd Pletches going out past the wire. Sometimes a lot of times they'll go another 1/4 mile, and the energy they have when they do that The time might not look that spectacular, but you can see the energy they have going out. That's always a good sign when you see that.
Let's do a little review before we do some preview. I'd just like your thoughts. Pull up a replay of the Whitney last week. Life is Good. I was kind of surprised later, and I'd love your opinion. I was surprised the consternation of some people on Twitter with the result. I thought it was a big performance, put in a big buyer number, and I thought it was a very nice performance.
Now makes his run at the outside of Life is Good. So it's
like a 2 to 5 shot or whatever he was, supposed to, and it didn't happen. But look, this is a laboring racetrack a lot of days. I mean, if you look at Super Saver on the inside, look how caked he is in kickback.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how laboring this track can be. And I don't think that worked in Life is Good's advantage, but he was able to still, his talent carried him to victory here. So sometimes it is a little hard to assess these things, or your expectations get too high and you get disappointed. But all in all, under the conditions, I thought it was a very good effort. Was it a spectacular one that a lot of people were hoping to see? As he moves forward to maybe an eventual meeting with Flightline, maybe not. But again, the different kinds of racetracks dictate sometimes how these horses run. I think Life is Good fell into the same situation in Dubai. That track was very laboring that day, and he couldn't get the 1.25 miles over it. And maybe over a different racetrack he would have. So these tracks change from day to day, from racetrack to racetrack. So I'm sure Todd will be hoping the next time he runs that the track's a little bit, a little more firm for him than what he had to negotiate there. But he got through it, he won, and move on from there.
Yeah, again, I thought it was a big performance. And we showed, I got a little video that we showed earlier, Charlie Appleby in the winner's circle after the Oaks. Big weekend for him with Nation's Pride, with the Moonlight, him, Godolphin, and William Buick coming over.
Yeah, you got to tip your hat to them. They got the job done, and to win both of those like that, it's a terrific performance. And, watching them train, sometimes they don't, tout themselves maybe as much as some of these horses do over here. That's just their style. And a lot of those European horses, they'll even blow out the day before the race. I mean, we had one this morning who I think is in tomorrow, go a half a mile slow, 53. Yeah. It really doesn't mean anything, but to them it does, and that's just their style. But that was a great effort from that whole team.
All right, let's take a look at some of the stakes action today, and then on the weekend as well. The Galloway today. I pulled up a replay of the Coronation Cup from earlier in the meet because we're going to watch number 11, Empress Tigress, get it done. Poppy Flower runs second to number 8. Number 6, Dairy Name, runs third. They're all back in. For me, I went back to Empress Tigress with the 2-for-2 record and the win here that we're going to see. So I tilted in that direction. What are your thoughts on the Galloway?
Obviously, it's a very wide open race. There's little to choose between several of these horses. You got to like the way this horse, Empress Tigress, came on here, or held on here, excuse me, to win the race. But since then, we've had some good works out of Breeze Easy and Dairy Name, both for Chris Clement. It's amazing to me that Dairy Name has not won a race after watching that Breeders' Cup juvenile turf last year when she really got in some trouble. Still came on and finished 4th, but these sprinters, sometimes just getting up at these distances is tough, and she's got the outside post today. Now, Chris put some speed into her the other day in that last work over there on the training track. So it'll be interesting to see. It's not her style to rush forward, and hopefully, though, with that work under her belt, she's sitting on a win and maybe a little bit of a price if she can work out a trip. Empress Tiger's obviously logical, and I do like Breeze Easy. We also had pretty good work from Del Mona, too, coming into the race. So she's coming off the best race of her career, but number-wise, she's still probably a little bit behind the best ones in the year.
Yeah, it's, again, as you said, an interesting field, nice full field. Should be a fun race this afternoon. Coming up on Saturday, speaking of fun races, the Saratoga Special, the 2-year-old races, always fun up here. The 2-year-old stakes, even more so. We're going to have Tommy Amoss on later. I'll get some insight on Owen's Leap, but is Owen's Leap going to be up against it again with Gulfport? We're going to take a look at the Bashford Manor at Churchill on July 4th. Gulfport going to be number 1. Owens Leap, the number 2 in here. The Asmussen runners just look really good in this race, and I would expect a very short price on Saturday. What are your thoughts on the special?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Gulfport's race to lose. Coolmore just bought into the horse. That news broke within the last 24, 36 hours. He's pretty sensational, and I'm sure Tom is going to tell you he's in very deep waters here. He was on the lead and drew off. He's going to get some pace pressure probably from Super Chow in here, but I'm sure Gulfport's going to be able to shake that off okay. He'd be really surprised if he gets beat. Damon's Mount obviously is the big question mark. Look, one is maiden by a dozen lengths in what was touted, despite a slow start, in what was touted to be a pretty good field there at Churchill. I'm pretty sure they've turned down some pretty significant offers for this horse. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him. He's been training at Colonial Downs. You see that 58-2 work on his form, 47. So he's definitely the one to beat. The others seem a little bit overmatched here. I'm sure Tom Sauce, he's putting blinkers on and looking for that to make the difference moving forward. But it's going to be hard for him to make up a dozen lengths on Gulfport. But we'll see how Damon's Mound stacks up in his local debut.
Yeah, very intriguing when you get to these 2-year-old stakes up here, because we're at the time where the horses that maybe were a little more precocious, the rest of the class starts to catch up, but Gulfport may be one of those that was precocious and is just going to continue on.
Yeah, I think for now they got a long way to catch up.
Also, a little bit later on Saturday, the 4-star Dave, I pulled up a replay of the Jaipur a little bit earlier this year down at Belmont. It'll be number 4, Casa Creed, for our friend Lee Einseidler. And Casa Creed, in the short field coming off of that race, I think Casa Creed looks pretty good in here. But Mason for Chad Brown, Regal Gory for Chad Brown. I mean, you have a couple of Chad Brown runners in there they can't ignore. What do you think in the 4-star Dave?
Well, Jaipur, the Jaipur, Casa Creed in the Jaipur, I liked him that day. He had trained really well. We had some good works on him on the clock report. And, he produced. He ran to the works, and here he is coming outside. He got some help up front, which he needed, and it was a long in time. The question with him, is he a better sprinter than he is a miler? He ran on the 4-star Dave last year. He ran pretty well. He ran 3rd of 8, so Lee wanted to try it again. Why not? And, it's a very prestigious race in his backyard. And, the disturbing thing is we get only a 5-horse field here. We get a 5-horse field in the Saratoga Special. At Arlington Saturday, a 5-horse field in the Beverly D. It's not just here. It's just everywhere, these short fields. Tough races for bettors to really sink their teeth into, other than maybe in those horizontal wagers. But, again, you said it best. I mean, Chad has 2 in here, and they're definitely the 2 to beat. Regal Glory going up against the boys, has won 4 in a row, 3 of those Grade 1 races. She's at the top of her division with the fillies. Chad said it's the right time to try her against the boys. The timing is good here. She's as good as she's ever been. And, she's probably still the one to beat. She gets I think it's a 5-pound break in weights or whatever from the boys, being the only filly in the race. So there's a lot to like about her, obviously. And Mason is a nose away from being undefeated in the U.S. and probably should be. The last couple of races were easy enough where he's able to bring him back for a 3rd time here, although he's had 2 months between races with Mason. I think Chad's going to be tough to beat. Oddly enough, he's never won the 4-star Dave, which is hard to believe when I found that out. And I spoke to him about it, and he said this is one race that he really, really wants to win, because like when he started first coming to the races and sitting out in the backyard and following horses, that was during the 4-star Dave era. And he was just so impressed by what that horse accomplished. And he said it would mean an awful lot to him to win a race named after 4-star Dave. And I think, he's got the one to beat. These 2 horses are both versatile. They could go to the lead. They could sit off. Looking at the PPs, Get Smoking's probably going to go to the lead. And Chad will be stalking them, and maybe Casa Creed sitting a little bit further off. It becomes a rider's race sometimes when there's only a 5-horse field like this. But I would have to say you're still going to have to beat beat one or both of the Chads.
Yeah, like a lot of the stakes you've alluded to with short fields, we have had short fields, but you've gotten the horses you want, the big names, and I think with the two Chad horses and Casa Creed in here, it's a good-looking field, albeit a short field, as you say.
No, I get that. I mean, you want the quality maybe over the quantity in these Grade 1 races from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
From
Betting,
a bettor's
yeah.
perspective, maybe not as much. It's just not as. It's not great for the bettors. It's not great for the handle, which also translates into purses and whatever. So you'd like to see bigger fields. Even the Travis looks like at the moment it's not lining up as that big a field. I mean, you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork at the last minute. But right now, 6, 7, maybe at this point. So we'll see how that.
And it doesn't seem as if offering more purse money has ever been a problem solver.
No, not in these kind of races. I mean, there's just so many opportunities around, and there are also a lot of horses that don't want to run against the two Chad Brown kind of horses here. They could go for pretty big money, maybe at Monmouth or somewhere else down the coast where they feel like they have a better chance. I mean, in the end, if you don't win, it doesn't matter, or finish in the money, it doesn't matter how big the purses are. So you got to put your horses where you think they can run best. So, that's the way it's been here all summer.
Will probably agree with that.
And our next guest, Tom Amoss, is in the house, so Mike will let you go, but we again appreciate the visit. I will once again tout the workout reports. You can go to drf.com, pick up the workout reports. 20 days of the meet left to go, so still plenty of opportunities to use that bullet in your holster and make a little money. And as I say, you guys do a great job with that.
Yeah, and for a second day in a row, got to congratulate Tom. It's quite an accomplishment. 4,000 wins is just.
For such a young man, I mean, that's
it's what 25 years, 4,000 wins, and really the first year didn't count. What did he win, 2 or 3 the first year? So it's really 4,000 wins in 24 years, and that's it is amazing. It is amazing, and he deserves all the credit.
Incredible.
For what
it's
he,
not
what
an
he's
easy
accomplished.
game. It's not an easy game at any level. There's no job in this game.
There's a lot of trainers that would be happy to win 400 races in their career.
Absolutely.
To add that other 0 on it's amazing.
No, it's a crazy number. And he is up next. Mike, again, appreciate the visit.
My pleasure.
Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum. Up next, Tom Amoss again, the career milestone yesterday. 4,000 wins, does it in a stakes race at Saratoga. We'll talk about that and more. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations and looking forward to a 5th, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued their 99-year tradition of delighting their faithful following with the finest authentic Italian recipes made with the freshest ingredients. Some things have changed in the last 99 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Hello everyone, I'm Scott Vartley and I'm here at the West Condominiums in Saratoga Springs. And guess what? We are down to the home stretch. Everything is 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. Come make a selection of one of the greatest condos ever to be built in Saratoga Springs. We're starting in the upper 5s and the only rooftop penthouse available now under construction. Wow, just look at this patio. We have a rooftop pool, heated garage, balconies, and a gym. Call me at 518-281-6808.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. Very happy to be joined by our next guest. I've been telling Tom we want him on the show for a while now, and I thought no better time than yesterday when he was in the winner's circle after the 4,000th career win, and so got him on the show this morning. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Appreciate you having me.
Happy to have you on the show. And why don't we start right out with the replay from yesterday, and we'll watch Isolate win in the tail of the cat. Isolate will be the number 1 horse here. Also, I took a couple of pictures in the winner's circle with the nice 4,000 win graphic, and so they can show that as well. Take us through the race yesterday, and I heard you afterwards saying that you always had high hopes for this horse.
Yeah, he's quick, and his game is quick. You know, run them off their feet and try to discourage anyone from going with him early. The outside horse, the 5 horse, was really the other speed in the race, and when Isolate, who you see right there with the blinkers and the white shadow roll coming to the line, got away from him early, I was very comfortable with that. Turning for Home, the 4 horse, made a very good momentum move against us, and I was like, well, now we're going to find out if Isolate can get 7/8 of a mile, because his specialty has been 6 furlongs, an 1/8 of a mile less, and you know, Isolate caught him out of the corner of his eye and took off and got the job done. That's my wife next to me, Colleen, and my youngest daughter, Haley, who works for the Breeders' Cup. She's in charge of all their social media and does their PR as well. So that was a lot of fun.
Excellent. And as the race is going, are you more concentrating on Isolate, or could you reflect on, oh, this is going to be career win number 4,000?
About the 8th pole, I guess, Anthony, was when I realized I'm gonna get this done today, which they've been weighing heavy in my mind. You know, I had a television crew follow me around, and that's no fun. You know, you know, I ran 4 horses that day. I ran some favorites, and nothing got done. I had a 2nd and 2/3. So when it came to the stakes race, you know, I really was wondering, you know, is this going to be another day that we have to wait? And as it turned out, it couldn't have happened in a better fashion. It really couldn't have.
It's at Saratoga.
Yeah, you're a guy who also runs strings at other tracks, so it could have happened someplace else.
Right.
But it happens here in a stakes race. Boy, you talk about karma.
The significance of that is that, you know, I was always going to be a horse trainer when I was growing up. Right. I knew that's what I was going to do. But my parents, I come from a family of 6 boys. And my mom and dad said, they knew nothing about racing. Nobody in my family had anything to do with it. Okay. But they said, we'll support, you know, your dreams, but you got to get a college education. So I went to LSU, and it was a really good growing up experience for me there. And in 1983, when I graduated, my dad said, you know, is there something, you know, you want to do or we can give you that's, you know, not too expensive that, you know, for your graduation? I said, I want to go to Saratoga. Never been. So in 83, I came to Saratoga. And I was here for a week. I watched Devil's Bag break his maiden. And I saw what big league racing was all about. All the jobs I'd had to that point were in Louisiana and my home track, Fairgrounds or Louisiana Downs. But this was a different animal up here. And I thought, man, wow, one day maybe I could run a horse up here.
Okay.
So I came back home and I started my job at the track. I was a hot walker and worked my way to groom, became an assistant trainer and a vet assistant. And for a brief period of time in Chicago during the dead of winter, I had a small group of horses. And I got a cold call from John Paracella, who was winning everything up here at the time. And he was looking for an assistant trainer. And I gave my horses up to be an assistant trainer up here for a year underneath John. And so I came back in '87, and my wife worked the Mutual Windows as a part-time, and we lived in a house with 8 other employees of John's, and we drew the short straw, and we had the bad room that had no doors, had no doors on it, no air conditioning, no nothing. But it was great to be up here. And I went. I was at the barn one day, and an owner from New Orleans, who knew my family, came by to say hello and invited us to go to dinner at the Wishing Well.
Oh, very nice.
And so in 1987, I was introduced to the Wishing Well. And last night, after I won my 4,000th race, I wanted to go back to the Wishing Well. The place has never changed. The food's fantastic. Bob is a great host there. And I love walking in there. It's a throwback in time. And it's just a place that when I go to eat dinner there, I take about 30 minutes, Part of that's because I want to have a nice drink, but a part of it's also just to take it all in. And I love that place.
Now, where do you fall in the six boys?
I'm fifth.
Okay.
I'm fifth. So, so I like to tell people this. My wife gets mad at me for saying it. So, the three oldest, when they graduated high school, was Yale, Rhodes Scholar, Yale again, and Yale again. And the fourth one went to Duke, and then one of us went to a state school, and then the younger one went to a small school up here called Williams, and he's a doctor in New Orleans, and actually is the team doctor for the Saints.
And for those who don't know, not only does Williams College have one of the best collegiate golf courses, it's what they call the Little Ivies. I mean, it's one of the great schools in America. I mean, I know everybody recognizes the other one. Yeah, but I'm guessing if my math is right, your senior year, you guys beat Alabama in football, and I bet none of those your brothers can say anything like that.
I went to the right school. I was young for my class. I had a November birthday, and when I got to LSU, it was a great growing up experience for me. To the fraternity I was in, which was a group of guys that we all still get together all the time. We've been close friends, Sigma Nu, and for the school LSU, I hold it dear in my heart.
Well, I will say, I went to the University of Southern California, and Sigma Nu is one of the most popular, if not, probably one of the two most popular fraternities on campus. Them and the SAEs were by far the two most wanted for fraternities. But did you happen to notice what the early Pick 5 paid yesterday?
I did not.
It only because it's applicable to you. When I say it, you'll get the laugh. 87-87.
I'll be damned. That is something.
10 billion to 1.
That's something.
That you would win because you started in 1987, right?
I did.
Your license, and
I did.
Pick 5 came back a bizarre 87-87. Yes,
so I was doing your homework.
Well, hopefully it'll pay me just to wear ties. I have a quick question. You said you were here for Devil's Bag. We're about the same age. I'm 2 years younger than you. So Devil's Bag, you know, one of the few times I have to say this because I don't want to say it. One of the few times I believe what the trainer said. Woody always said I could have broke my maiden in the hopeful with Devil's Bag, and I believe he could have because Capital South wasn't much. Yeah. But so you're here for the week. Do you remember what the big Saturday race was?
Oh man, no, I don't.
Okay, no, I was just wondering because
I remember that they were setting records every day crowd-wise.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I couldn't get a place to sit, right. And I actually had a childhood friend who introduced me to racing. We were roommates at LSU, and he still had another semester left of school. But I called him and I said I was going to Saratoga, and he said, "I'm going to jump on with you. I'm going to go." So we both came up here. I'm fresh out of school. He's got one semester left. That was Al Stahl, who is a trainer now, and so Al and I were up here together. And in the last race one day, we watched the jocks come out. And I looked at this one jock, and I was like, man, this guy's really tall to be a jockey.
Mig?
Wesley Ward.
Wesley
Ward. He was up here riding at the time, and of course he's going on to be a great trainer.
Yes.
And then I look, I was just a dumb college kid, but then I noticed
we were smart enough to come up here, so I don't know how dumb you were.
I noticed the New York handshake at some of the places that you can eat here at Saratoga.
Yeah. Or else you don't eat.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore. But after we caught on to that, we had a place to sit every day.
Every day. Oh my goodness.
And many in our audience know exactly how to.
It's not like that anymore. We're going way back.
Was Simply Majestic in John Parcells' barn when you were there?
Absolutely. You got a good memory. So the day I signed on with John, and of course this is before, cell phones or anything like that. Yeah. The form was really your only source of information. The day I signed on with John and was working at Belmont, and he hadn't gotten there yet, he was still in Miami, the headlines were Simply Majestic wins California Derby on to the Kentucky Derby. The headlines 2 days later were Simply Majestic mistakenly not nominated for the Kentucky Derby, and he didn't get to run. But he was a great horse, and he ended up being a really good horse on the grass.
He was.
And I worked around him and some others. But Simply Majestic, I got a great. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but
we didn't invite you here for us to talk.
Yeah. But when I worked for John, I remember that we had a filly in the barn that had run twice at Aqueduct on the dirt, and she was so poorly made that whenever she ran, she would hit her back legs with her front legs, and no matter how much bandage material, no matter what you did with the back legs, she'd find a spot. So I mean, literally getting her ready to work out would be like getting a football player taped up.
Yes.
And I never could keep her like that. So Simply Majestic was working on the grass on this specific day. We needed a victim, and we decided it was going to be her. That was going to be the work partner. So I got her ready, and onto the turf course they went. And back then, Belmont had a day or two a week where you could work on the grass, and it was chaos. Everybody went out there at the same time, and the clockers didn't get the works very often on some of these horses. All due respect to the clockers that were clocking back then. But anyhow, those two hit the pole and worked together, and she beat him. So this is a Derby winner that's getting beat by a maiden that literally has been beaten combined 50 lengths. And she got back to the barn and she didn't touch on her legs. Now keep in mind, her two races were on the dirt. Right. So, you know, this was on the grass. So we entered her on the grass. And I called Al Stahl, who was now a geologist in New Orleans. Now he had a great background in horse racing, but his mom wanted him to be a geologist.
Rocks for jocks, baby.
And so anyhow, I called him. I said, hey, we're running a horse today. I said, she can't get beat. And he's like, good to know. So this was, I know you guys remember this. This was when they had the 1-900 number you called the list. Race
sure.
Called and punched in the Belmont code. And
Tom
I'm going to have to wait. So I punched in the code, and he said it broke into, we're not, scientifically set up very well. And he didn't hear the horse's name they gave him. And the next word out of Marshall Cassidy's voice after he broke the middle race call was, it's Chapel of Dreams by some 21 lengths. And she crushed this. Still went on to be a great grass horse. She was by, I think she was Northern Dancer out of Terra Lingua, by a champion, out of a champion, and she couldn't get her own way in the dirt or on the grass. She was a great horse. I know. Paid
So that what?
$27.
So that makes
$27 that day.
a half to Stormcat then?
I
think Stormcat was a Terlingua.
Yeah,
that was probably Wayne's first really good dirt runner.
Yeah.
The 2-year-old filly in the late 70s.
She was a special horse on the turf.
And so people don't, just like quickly for Simply Majestic, I mean, he was a tremendous miler on the turf. He's Steinland's 89 mile. But I think in the spring of 88 in Northern California, I think he set the world record, 9 furlongs on the dirt. He took
that was the California Derby, I believe, wasn't it?
I don't think it was. I think he was a 4-year-old by then.
Oh, okay.
And I think at the time, Secretariat's Marlboro Cup 145 and 2 was the world record. But I think Simply Majestic, and I think Bobby Frankel had said I think it was Ruhlman, but he sent a horse up there, and the track announcer was fixated on the 3 to 5 shot, while Simply Majestic and Ted Sabarisi, right?
Sabarisi. We trained
black and blue dots.
God, you gotta get
was like gone, and I think he got 145 and had broken Secretary.
So Sabarisi, we trained privately for Mr. Sabarisi, and I remember that well as well. Also,
if your family wasn't involved in horse racing, what attracted you to the game?
I loved the idea of handicapping a race.
Really?
Of looking at a race like it was a puzzle and trying to predict how the race would set up, who's going to go to the front, who's going to be in the middle, and trying to predict the outcome. And I got great satisfaction out of watching a race unfold the way I thought it would on paper. So by the time I was 12 years old, I was fluent in reading the form. I knew how to read a form, and it served me well training, in my opinion. Claiming horses. Look, yesterday's race is a perfect example of looking at the form, knowing that we're the speed, and our big competition is a 5-horse, and the rider's Kendrick Carmouche, and Kendrick's a speed rider, so I know he's going to go. And so my instructions to Tyler were simply, look, send and discourage him. Discourage Kendrick from wanting to go. Right. Try to put him away early, and that's just the way it worked out.
I like that. Now, I have 2 questions. One is, I think it's interesting for our audience to learn, to discourage, to keep on. You're not looking for the breather. I want you to keep running hard. The other is, with your colleagues, I don't get that from trainers, that they're racing form. They concern themselves with their own animal, and what'll be will be. But you handicap, which I do. I
not only do I handicap, Anthony, but like when I get in the paddock, I'm examining the horse I'm running against, seeing, you know, what I think is a horse that's in good flesh, and, you know, so on and so forth. So, I mean, like, a perfect example is I ran a horse early in the meet called Taiwanaku in an allowance race. And I thought I had a good chance. I claimed him. He won on the race. He ran a very fast speed figure. And in this first level allowance race, who shows up but Keep Me in Mind? And I was like, oh, jeez. He'd been off for a year, but he ran the Travers. He ran fourth that day. And so I'm like, this is the horse to beat. And so when he came to the when Keep Me in Mind came to the paddock while I was saddling, I had my eyes on him. I wanted to, you know, is this a horse that looks like he's ready to go? And I left the paddock with my head down because I thought he was definitely right, and he showed it that day. He beat us. We were third.
Do you use numbers, buyers or thoroughgraphs, or?
I use Ragozin.
Okay.
So I was fortunate. You know, in the early '90s, I was in Louisiana, and I had won a few titles, so I was a regional name down there. And Ragozin was trying to expand their marketing, and they gave me a shout, and I knew him from when I was up here for Paracella, and asked if I wanted to, you know, kind of learn how to read the sheets, and they would take me on, and, you know, if I did anything, maybe they could use me in some advertising, and I was all in for that. And I say it all the time, it's the Bible of speed figures.
And John was a sheets guy, right?
Paracella may have been. I don't. There was no relationship between me and him as far as that goes.
And I looked it up. It was, you know, not that it's a big deal, but it was that Golden Gate was one of those Budweiser Breeders' Cup races,
sure,
and I think it was Ruhlman was the short favorite coming up.
When you were in the Word Circle yesterday, you told a great story about entering a couple horses in the race for different owners, and it was maybe a little turning point in the career. Just reflect on that.
It was early on, so you know, the hardest lesson for me to learn as a trainer, as I was getting ready, I'd been on the track for long enough that people knew who I was, even as an assistant trainer, and many people came up to me and said, you know, when you decide to start on your own, give me a call, I'll help you out. And I held on to all those names. So when I decided to go out on my own, I wanted to call the chips in, you know, and it didn't go well. I had one guy, you know, that came to me and said, okay, we'll give it a shot. And he was very volatile as an owner. And so it came a situation where it was a big stakes race, and in a stable of 5, I had to run 2 horses against each other. His horse, who was favored in the race, and a really extreme long shot. And the long shot had no real form to speak of, but the race was 1 1/8 miles, and in Louisiana, 1 1/8 miles is a lot of distance. So this horse that I had for this owner was favored, and he got beat, and the other horse won. And back then, they would lock your phones up on the backside before the races started, and they'd unlock them at the end of the day. No cell phones or anything like that back then. And so I'd hired a kid that was in high school just to help me out. He didn't know anything about racing. And when the race ended, the owner, who was not at the track, had to call the barn when the race were over to find out how he did. Well, I was up at the grandstand celebrating. Even when the races ended, they turned the phones back on. My owner calls. He asked the kid, how did our horse do? And the kid says, well, we won. But it wasn't his horse that won, it was the other horse that had won. So he was excited, and he said, well, I'm going to call Tom in about 20 minutes. When I got back to the barn, I asked if the guy had called. He said, yes. I said, what'd you tell him, you know, because I knew he wouldn't take it well. He said, I told him we won. I said, no, his horse didn't win. The other horse won. So I sat and I looked at that phone like it was a ticking time bomb, okay?
It didn't say properly like this. Ignore.
Right. And it ran.
This story is better than you were telling yesterday.
Yeah, I gave you the short version yesterday. So the phone rang, and it was him, and he said, hey, Tom, we won, huh? And I was like, no, Mike, we were 4th. Well, he wasn't stupid, and he's like, where'd that other horse of yours run?
That was the wheat part.
Yeah, yeah. And I said, oh, that horse won. And he said, huh. And as I like to tell it later, in Louisiana, huh means you're fired.
Okay, that's good.
So I was down to 3 horses. I came home and I told my wife, I said, we're done. You know, shortest training career ever, 2 months. But the race had caught the attention of the nation's biggest owner who lived in Shreveport, John Franks. John Franks. And Mr. Franks gave me 3 horses. And in the next 3 weeks, I won with all 3 of them when they ran, and he flooded me with horses after that.
That's incredible.
He was a guy I just remember because as a trip guy, and this is going back to the 80s, his, we had all the same saddle cloth and everything, but Mr. Franks' horse, if you couldn't follow those silks, you just got to get out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because he made it so easy for you. You're like
green, orange lettering on a white ball.
And then the F and everything. And I think he had, I don't know if it's still standing because it was so long ago, but he had the highest earnings son of Northern Dancer, which was, just Herat, who wasn't much of a horse, but no Northern Dancer's son, because all the ones in Europe were running for like 1/5 the purse
sure. I didn't think
in
about
the United States. But Herat, at one point, was the highest earning son of Northern
I have to ask, you're now 4,000 wins, and by the way, congratulations!
Thank
It's great. It's just an incredible. And I had to look it up this morning because I'm thinking, where does 4,000? You're number 15 currently all time, which is.
And I'd like to know how many of those were born in the '60s. How many of those that 4,000 club were born in the '60s?
But I have to ask, after 4,000, do you remember career victory number 1?
Absolutely, I remember like it was yesterday. So
do you remember what you got?
Yeah, not a lot.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. The reason I say is, you ever see Bill Mott? He tells a story. It's like one of the favorite things he says. Like, I think he won his first race. It was a dead heat in South Dakota. I might get some of this wrong. So they do all that stuff, but there was like a blanket was going to the winner. So they had to like flip a corner thing, and he won the blanket. And he'll tell you today, like, that's one of his favorite things in the game was that he won the coin flip to win the takeaway prize besides the purse. But trainers, they seem to have a real good memory about.
So mine was at Sportsman's Park in 1987.
Sure.
Maiden 7,500 claim, and the horse's name was Prize Dream. And I got into Sportsman's, dead of winter. It was 0 degrees every day when you woke up. And
that's appetizing.
Yeah. I lived at a motel called the Cove Motel with my newlywed wife. And it was one of those L-shaped motels on Cicero Avenue where the manager's office looks out over all the rooms over here in a 2-story place, and it was central heating. So we had an 80-year-old guy live there, and he controlled the heating, and so it was literally 90 degrees in the room and 0 degrees outside. That's the first thing. So you slept in a T-shirt. That was the first thing. The second thing is, and I'll leave this to your imagination, but when I would come home at the end of the day at 5:30, the parking lot was full of cars. And there were guys getting off of work, carrying a brown bag, and they usually had a lovely lady with them that they would take in, and then the parking lot would clear out about 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
But
there was an hourly rate.
Yeah, I couldn't park. So I went to the manager and I said, man, I don't have a place to park. It's snowing, And he said, oh, you're the kid that's training horses, right? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, you got a winner for me? And I just gave him the next horse I ran, which was Prize Dream, that won the next day, right? So she wins the next day. It's a big moment for me, my first win. We go out to dinner at the Knotty Pine and have a steak. And now it's time to come home. It's snowing again. I'm thinking about that parking lot, nowhere to park. I'm about to park 2 blocks away. And when I get to the parking lot, here comes that manager running out of his office. He's got a big orange cone in front of the spot right in front of my room. He lifts it up for me, and I parked right in there. I had a parking spot right in front of my room.
So no matter what, that's the equivalent of Bill Mott's blanket.
Yeah,
you got
absolutely.
a parking spot that was invaluable.
I did.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I'm guessing, was it a 2-lap race at Sportsman that you had to win?
So it was what we call a bull ring.
Bull ring. Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, so it was a 6.5 furlong race. So you definitely made 2 turns on
and I
the
think
6.5 furlong race.
Taylor Special was running there at that time pretty good at Sportsman in the late 80s, etc. But for people who don't remember, there used to be 3 tracks in the Chicago area, and Sportsman was kind of like our aqueduct at the winter racing and a bull ring.
Let me just hit on a couple more things before we let you go. First, you have one in the Saratoga Special coming up, and we'll watch the replay again of the Bashford Manor. We watched it a little earlier with Mike.
I hope you have a widescreen TV.
Gulfport's going to get it done here.
Devil's bag.
Right.
You're facing the monster again. What are your thoughts for Owens Leap on Saturday?
So Owens Leap is a nice horse. He won first time out. This is the Bashford Manor, and like I said, I hope you have a wide screen because that horse on the lead that's running against him on Saturday is Gulfport, and he's a real good horse. And for Owens Leap, who's going to run second here, it's about 12 lengths between the two of us. So Owens Leap is going to have to leap forward in ability, and I'm hoping that for a horse like Gulfport, he gets some real company on the front end. Maybe takes a little gas out of his tank, and we can do like we did there and finish up and have a good showing.
Yeah, again, he's a monster, but you take your shot. They're all lightly raced. And finally, I pulled up one more replay because in the winner's circle yesterday, folks were asking you about your career and whatnot and favorite horse, and you kind of said, not sure I want to point at one in particular, but you did name Serengeti Empress, and we'll take a look here at the 2019 Kentucky Oaks. Serengeti Empress is going to be the number 13, and a grade 1, a venerable grade 1 at Churchill. This had to be, if not the highlight, a highlight of the career. Just reflect back on winning the Kentucky Oaks with Serengeti Empress.
Well, we drew the 13 post. I'm hugely superstitious. I'm a guy, if I get on a plane, I'm on row 13, I go to the counter, and I get a different row. So when I drew the 13 post, number 13, I was like, oh, God. And, Jose Ortiz rode the horse that day from that outside post, and he was able to clear the field before the first turn, make the lead. He gets all the credit. He had in his head what he wanted to do, and he did it, and it worked out great, and he gave him my biggest win.
As I say, a nice victory, the venerable.
By the way, I sit in row 13 now.
I embrace it.
I embrace it.
Yeah, very good.
And when you won the ballerina, you call Al Stoll up and go, Al, I just won a grade 1.
Tom, this has been great. A lot of fun. And also, I will applaud you and you and everybody whenever I have somebody in from the Fox show. I think the Fox show is great. I think it's been great not only for New York racing, but for racing in general to kind of spread the word nationally with a nice national broadcast regularly out there. And you do great. Whether you enjoy the TV work?
I'm proud of that show. I'm just a little aspect of it. I think I bring a perspective that's unique to it. But everybody in that show on both sides of the camera are great professionals, and I think all of us together bring a really good piece of TV to learn about racing and to enjoy racing.
Yeah. It looks like you have fun, which comes across on TV, and that's good when you're a talking head. You just it looks like you guys are having fun, and that's a great.
We have a great time.
Great watch.
Yeah.
And spreading the word.
And look, we get to cover great races too.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with being at the racetrack for some good racing, including up here in Saratoga. Oh, let me ask you, any big changes from your first visit to Saratoga to now?
What's the
from
same?
my first visit? Well, Saratoga's gotten bigger and expanded and done some different things, but it hasn't lost
the charm,
the beauty of a throwback in time. And the town, the people in the town, as well as the fans, they're all the same. Yeah. They're here for the racing. You go anywhere you want, walk down the street, have a drink somewhere, eat somewhere, everybody's talking racing. I love how the whole town focuses on what's happening right over there.
Yep. You mentioned just what I mention all the time. It's not just inside the fence; it's outside the fence.
Absolutely.
Up here with downtown people. Hey, the double I played yesterday, the exact time. And you mentioned it yesterday in the winner's circle. The fans here are so knowledgeable, and the winner comes back after a big performance.
I soaked that in yesterday. I remember it well.
I don't blame
and I'll tell you one other thing about Saratoga, the racetrack that I really like. The Pauper and the Prince are standing right next to each other.
Yeah.
And I love bringing all the people together.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Tom, once again, congratulations on the 4,000th career victory yesterday. That a phenomenal feat, but we really appreciate it. This has been great.
Thank you, Seth.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony.
My pleasure.
Thanks for swinging by.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America. Great racing coming up this afternoon. Don't forget, Low Rollers is a Thursday event, so go over to the 4-Star Dave and sign up. I'll be in there. You can challenge me. The first week I was doing okay. Now I'm whiffing a little bit, but I'm looking for a comeback this afternoon on the Low Rollers. So stop by and join today if you're here at the track. Otherwise, enjoy the racing wherever you are. Fire up your Capital OTB Bet account and enjoy via that method if you would like. As far as television, we'll be back in tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the Handicapper Report, 10 a.m. for Racing Across America. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.